He said I was his whole life. He showed up for every scar, held me like I was fragile glass. But when I gave him my heart, he crushed it without blinking. But then, I turned every one of his dreams into the nightmare he could never wake up from. They always say you remember the moment everything changed, the second the world shifted beneath your feet, the breath caught in your throat, and time froze around a smile that felt like home. That moment for me was him. He walked into my life like he was written into it by some cruel god who loved irony. A stranger with eyes that seemed to understand silence, with a voice that could wrap itself around my chaos and calm it. I was already broken when he found me, shattered by people who mistook love for possession, by promises that came wrapped in barbed wire. But him? He didn't run from my damage. He leaned in. He traced every scar like a cartographer mapping the ruins of my soul. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. He said I was his whole life. That's what he whispered the night I cried myself to sleep on his chest for the third time that week. That's what he swore when he found me curled up on my apartment floor, gasping through panic like the walls were closing in. He picked me up, literally, and held me like I might break if he let go. "You're safe," he'd say. "You're everything to me." I believed him. God, I needed to believe him. Because when you've spent years being someone's afterthought, even a drop of gentleness feels like a flood. And he gave me floods. Midnight drives just to watch the stars. Random notes in my books saying things like your laugh is the sound I want to grow old to. Coffee in the morning with extra sugar, just the way I like it. He even learned the songs I listened to when I couldn't breathe. He said all the right things, did all the right things. And slowly, piece by piece, I started to heal. I stitched myself back together, not because he forced me to, but because he made me believe I was worth stitching. My laughter came easier. I looked in the mirror and saw something close to strength. I gave him my trust, my stories, my pain. And eventually, I gave him my heart. Fully. Completely. It wasn't wrapped in armor anymore. It was open, beating, exposed. And I placed it right into his hands. He smiled. He kissed me. And he crushed it without blinking. It didn't happen all at once. That's the cruelest part of it. He didn't wake up one morning and decide to destroy me. No, that would have been too kind, too merciful. Instead, he chipped away at me, slowly, quietly, until I couldn't tell if the pain was coming from him or from the ghosts of my past he'd so gently helped silence. The little things went first. He stopped looking at me like I was art and started staring through me like I was wallpaper. My texts went unanswered longer. His touch, once reverent and warm, became mechanical. A duty, not desire. And when I asked if something was wrong, he would smile that same damn smile and whisper, "You're overthinking again, baby. You know I love you." God, he was good. He knew all my insecurities, all my trauma. He'd listened to every late-night confession, every stuttered fear. And now he used them, not to soothe me, but to manipulate me, to gaslight me. He made me question my own reality. Made me think maybe I was the problem. That maybe I was too broken. Too much. Too needy. And he was the saint who stayed, the hero who hadn't left yet, but could, at any moment. So I shrank. I tried harder. I loved louder. And he loved less. Until one night, I saw it. The message. It lit up on his phone like a slap to my soul. Just a name I didn't recognize, followed by a heart emoji. My hands trembled as I unlocked it. He never changed the password because he thought I'd never look. He underestimated me. There it was. Weeks of messages. Her name was Grace. And she wasn't just some fling. She was me, before me. Before the tears. Before the vulnerability. Before the real, raw love that doesn't wear makeup or come with candlelight. She was his new project. And I was just another finished puzzle shoved back in the box. When I confronted him, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said his name. And he looked at me, calm, emotionless, and said, You knew I'd leave eventually. People like you break too easily. That's when I realized. He never held me like I was fragile glass because he was afraid I'd break. He did it because he wanted to be the one to shatter me. And he had. My heart, my trust, my belief in something good. All of it, crushed in the same hands that once promised to protect it. But here's the thing about broken women. We remember. We rebuild. And when we do, we don't come back the same. After he walked out of my apartment that night, leaving behind the scent of betrayal and a silence that screamed louder than thunder, I didn't cry. Not that night. I sat on the floor, in the same spot where he once knelt and kissed my scars like they were sacred. The same spot where he told me, I'll never leave. Not even if you ask me to. Funny how people swear forever when they only mean for now. I didn't cry because something inside me had shifted. Something deeper than pain. Something colder than heartbreak. I didn't feel sorrow. I felt clarity. You see, when a man pretends to heal you just so he can break you better, that's not love. That's strategy. And now it was my turn to strategize. I remembered every little thing he had ever said. Every careless word he let slip when he thought I was too dazed with love to notice. Every name he mentioned in passing. Every location he loved. Every ambition he dreamed about out loud when he was still trying to win me. Because he wasn't just a liar. He was predictable. He once told me his greatest fear was becoming irrelevant. That if no one was watching him, he didn't exist. He needed admiration, attention, adoration. He lived for the spotlight. So I planned to dim every bulb he had ever basked in. I started small. A message to Grace. Not angry. Not bitter. Just kind. Too kind. With screenshots she couldn't unsee and questions she had to ask him. And when he lied to her the way he lied to me, I sent her the proof. I didn't do it to win her over. I did it to plant the seed. Let the doubt bloom. Let it rot everything she thought she had with him. Just like he did to me. I didn't stop there. I knew where he worked. Knew how badly he wanted that promotion. Knew the executive who flirted with him at the company gala and how he boasted about being her favorite. I also knew the policy his company had against employee relationships. One anonymous tip. A forwarded chain of texts I'd archived long ago. A photo from that same gala, one he sent me while bragging about how easy she was. The silence that followed was delicious. He didn't even know it was me. Not yet. Because this revenge, it wasn't about revenge. It was about control. Taking back the control he stole from me when he made me doubt my own worth. And I was just getting started. I went quiet on social media. Disappeared from the places he used to accidentally run into me. I ghosted mutual friends. Removed my traces, my patterns, my routine. He started messaging. First, are you okay? Then, I miss you. Finally, did you do this? I didn't answer. Because when a man destroys you for sport, the worst punishment isn't your anger. It's your absence. And now, I wasn't the girl crying on the floor anymore. I was the storm quietly building over his fragile little world. He thought he knew how to break me. He had no idea what I looked like when I was rebuilding. But soon, he'd learn. The thing about men like him? They think they're untouchable. They thrive on chaos, convinced the world will keep bending around their brokenness. That no matter how many hearts they crush, there will always be another one waiting, bleeding, begging, believing. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I was done bleeding. And I was done begging. He had no idea that every smile I gave him while he unraveled me was stored. Archived. I remembered everything. Every lie he coded in affection. Every manipulation disguised as love. Every moment he watched me fall apart and did nothing, or worse, smiled like it pleased him. So now I smiled. Because it was my turn. It was easy to dismantle him. He left his ego exposed like an open wound. All I had to do was touch it gently and press. I started by becoming the woman everyone wanted to hear from. I revived the blog I abandoned when we met. He once called it a waste of time. Except now, it had a new theme: healing after emotional betrayal. Every post was raw, honest, familiar, painfully familiar. Because every anecdote I wrote, it was us. Every manipulation tactic I exposed, his words, his actions, his games. I never named him. I didn't need to. The people who knew, knew. And the ones who didn't, they still saw him. In every paragraph, every quote, every monster disguised as a savior. The blog spread like wildfire. Shares, comments, messages from women who'd lived the same story, bled the same way. Suddenly, I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the voice. And he? He was the cautionary tale. I knew he read every post. I saw his anonymous views in the analytics. I could feel his silence stretching longer, tighter, more desperate. He couldn't call me out without confessing it was him. And still, I wasn't done. I attended a charity gala he'd been dreaming of speaking at. He once told me it would launch his reputation. I walked in with confidence, my hair pinned high, lips red like warning signs, and a man beside me he once tried to belittle. And when I saw him across the room, I smiled. That same soft smile I used to wear when I was in love. Only now, I was in control. He tried to approach me. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice tight, a shadow of the man who once held me like I was everything. I looked through him. "I'm sorry," I said. "Do I know you?" He froze. That was the moment I knew. The boy who loved control was finally watching it slip through his fingers. And the best part? This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was just the prelude. Because when I truly strike back, there won't be any pieces left to pick up. The weeks that followed were oddly quiet. No texts. No calls. No sudden appearances at the coffee shop we used to share. He vanished, just like I did. Except the difference was, I left to rise. He disappeared to hide. Because now, his world was crumbling. His job? Gone. Grace? She left after discovering she was just a page in the same tired story he once read me. His name? No longer associated with charm, talent, or ambition, but with whispered warnings and ruined trust. He tried to scrub his image online. He tried to launch a defense. But how do you fight a ghost story that sounds exactly like your own? Every woman who'd ever doubted her gut when he smiled at her too kindly, they started speaking too. The blog wasn't just mine anymore. It became ours. Dozens of women shared their experiences. He wasn't the only man like him, but he was definitely one of the most destructive. And he was terrified. The silence shattered one night at 2:17 a.m. I was asleep when my phone lit up. His name glowed like poison. "I don't know what you're trying to do to me, but it needs to stop." I stared at it, laughed, quietly. Because now he was finally feeling a sliver of what he did to me. Back when he held my heart like it was breakable, but not valuable. Back when he used my vulnerability as leverage. Back when he thought love meant control and silence meant consent. So I replied. Just one line. "I'm not trying." I already did. And I meant it. Because I wasn't interested in apologies. I wasn't looking for closure. I wasn't here to fix anything anymore. I was here to finish it. He didn't respond again. Not directly. But I heard the whispers. His circle shrinking. His confidence cracking. His public mask slipping. I watched him try to reinvent himself with new words, a new woman, a new dream. But none of it stuck. Because once you've been unmasked, you can't go back. And he had been unmasked. He'd built his life around control. And now, every piece was slipping like sand through shaking hands. And still, I hadn't even delivered the final blow. No. That was coming. He thought this was about heartbreak. About love lost. About revenge fueled by pain. But he still didn't get it. This wasn't about him at all anymore. This was about me. And I was about to take back everything he ever made me doubt I could be. But not just for me. For every woman who'd ever been broken and told she was too much, too emotional, too soft. I wasn't soft anymore. I was sharp, and I was ready. Do you know what haunts men like him? Not anger, not revenge, but a woman who rebuilds. Stronger, unrecognizable, untouchable. I became the version of myself he always secretly feared I'd turn into, the one who didn't need him, who didn't seek validation in his approval, who didn't beg him to stay or ask him to explain his cruelty. I became a woman who could stand alone and still shake the ground beneath his feet. Because that's the thing with men who prey on the broken. They don't know what to do when the broken learn how to fight back. I was on magazine covers now. My blog had turned into a brand. Speaking events, panels, TEDx. People listened to me not because I screamed, but because I survived. And I made sure his name was never mentioned. That was the final cruelty. He wanted to be unforgettable. So I made sure the world forgot him. He wasn't the villain in my story. He wasn't anything. And that burned more than any call-out ever could. But I wasn't done. Because I had one last thread to pull. The documentary. A producer had approached me after one of my panels. They wanted a series on emotional abuse. The hidden kind. The ones no one believes. Because there are no bruises, just bleeding that never shows. They wanted my story. At first, I said no. Not because I was afraid of him, but because I was afraid of who I used to be. The girl who believed that love meant tolerating pain. Who thought that if someone stayed, even after hurting you, it meant they loved you. Who confused possession for protection. But eventually, I said yes. Not for me. For the women still trapped in stories like mine. And I told it all. Every word. Every tear. Every manipulation. I didn't name him, but I didn't need to. The world recognized the pattern. And he did too. I know he watched it. I could feel him watching, breathing heavily in the dark, gripping his phone as he listened to me expose the architecture of his cruelty with clinical precision. And I smiled. Not because I wanted to destroy him, but because he finally knew. He never broke me. He sharpened me. He thought I was a fragile little thing meant to be held delicately or shattered completely. But I wasn't glass. I was a mirror. And now the whole world could see him, the real him, reflected back. His greatest nightmare wasn't losing me. It was losing the illusion of who he pretended to be. And now? There was nowhere left to hide. His world felt quiet, while mine set fire to the sky. By the time the documentary aired in full, something shifted. Not just for me. For him. His name, though never once spoken, began to disappear from rooms he used to walk into with ease. Invitations stopped arriving. Collaborations vanished. Clients withdrew. No one publicly accused him. They didn't have to. Reputation is a fragile thing. And his depended on secrecy, charm, and denial. But now, even he didn't believe his own lies anymore. I received an email from him. Long, rambling. Half rage, half desperation. He said I'd ruined his life. That I twisted everything. That I was vindictive. But what caught my eye wasn't the insults. It was one line near the end. You were never supposed to survive me. I stared at those words for a long time. Because there it was. The truth. Not love. Not regret. Just the confession of a man who built his entire identity on control. And couldn't handle the reality of my freedom. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. He had spent months, years, tearing me down so I'd always look up to him. So I'd stay small enough to fit inside his hollow world. So he could feel large while I stayed lost. But now, I'd become something he could never reach. A woman who didn't just heal. A woman who rose. And that was a fate worse than revenge. Because the truth? I never needed to destroy him. I just needed to reclaim me. I poured everything he tried to break in me into purpose. He gave me pain. I turned it into fire. He gave me silence. I turned it into voice. He gave me destruction. I built an empire out of it. And as my platform grew, so did the ripple effect. Women reached out, day after day, telling me they'd left abusive relationships, that they'd recognized the signs early because of the words I'd written, that they'd chosen themselves instead of staying for potential. They called me brave, but I wasn't brave. I was finished. Finished letting someone else write my ending. Finished believing love was pain. Finished carrying the weight of someone who never intended to carry me. He watched all of it unfold. And I know it ate him alive. Because he used to whisper, "You're my whole world." But now, my world didn't have room for him. And the nightmare wasn't what I did to him. It was what he could never undo. I became his living curse, and he knew he'd never escape. It's strange how silence feels different when you choose it. Years ago, his silence used to shatter me. I'd lie awake wondering what I did wrong, why his warmth turned cold overnight, why love felt like punishment disguised as affection. His silence wasn't quiet. It was violent. It screamed everything he refused to say. But now, the silence is mine, and it is peaceful. Because I no longer search for his voice in the spaces between my thoughts. I no longer carry his memory like a wound. I carry it like armor. It took me years to understand. The worst thing I ever did to him was survive. Not loudly, not with a breakdown, but with calm, with grace, with success. Because people like him don't expect you to walk away. They expect you to crawl. They count on you falling apart so they can be the one who gets to say, "See? She was never strong enough." But I didn't fall apart. I burned. And from the ashes, I built a life so far beyond his reach that even the memory of him couldn't haunt it. Last I heard, he moved away. Changed jobs. Changed names, maybe. Trying to start over in a place where no one knows him. Where no one whispers when he walks in the room. Where no one sees the cracks in his smile and wonders who he's breaking now. But you can't outrun the truth. And the truth is this. He used to dream of being remembered. He craved legacy, devotion, obsession. But all he got was infamy. He thought he was the main character in my story. But now, he's not even a footnote. I don't say his name. I don't curse it. I don't miss it. I've outgrown it. But he wakes up every day in a world that now echoes the consequences of what he did. Because I turned my pain into a lighthouse. And every light that shines from it reminds him of what he tried to extinguish and failed. He made me feel like I was a nightmare, hard to love, too much to handle. But in the end, I became his nightmare. The one where the woman he thought would always come back never did. The one who didn't just heal. She thrived. And now, he doesn't sleep peacefully anymore. Because he knows I'm out there, not watching, not chasing, but rising. And he'll never wake up in a world again where I don't exist as a reminder of everything he couldn't break. Because in the end, he didn't just lose me. He lost the version of himself who believed he was untouchable. And me? I gained the only thing that matters. Freedom.